Right, so why am I disputing the meaning which seemingly has unanimous agreement, or almost unanimous agreement? Why am I disputing this? Well, the reason is, I am saying that the Quran is an object outside the human sphere. Outside the human sphere. What do I mean by this? Well, the Quran is what we consider to be divine revelation. So even if it is decoded using Arabic, its Arabic should be higher than any human Arabic. Furthermore, if we look at the Quran itself, I would look at chapter 20, verse 114. It tells the reader, and the first reader was Prophet Muhammad, it tells the reader that the reader do not rush to understand the Quran before inspiration has been made clear to him. So Allah will point him towards the thing which will make the revelation clear to him. So language by itself is not enough for him to understand. He needs to actually be pointed to a particular human experience. And human experience, as we know, is always evolving. So if this is the case, then it is natural for our understanding to grow richer as time goes by. It is not for us to look at the original recipients in order to say, well, this is the only meaning we can come across. No, this is not how it works. The Quran is dynamic in that sense. Classical Arabic does not pay much attention to consistency of usage. Now take, for example, the word deen. Deen, we know people would say, translate it as religion. But the Quran also uses a cousin of that word called dain. Dain, some people say debt, some people say it means contract. I prefer the word meaning contract, tadayantum, when you contract, when you form a contract. So in classical Arabic, there is no link between deen and dain in terms of semantics. But when the Quran uses it, I say no, the Quran uses words in a consistent way. So the word deen will absorb meaning from the word dain, because dain is a concrete human experience, whereas deen is abstract, so deen will absorb from it. So therefore deen is our contract with our any particular authority. It can be Allah, and it could be Allah's partners as well, who are false gods. So deen has a far deeper meaning than just religion. In fact, if you look at Arabic lexicons, it has loads of meanings. Power, authority, law. So deen is quite a deep word. Yet if you ask an average native speaker of Arabic, he'll tell you deen means religion. So what happens is the Quran has been trapped in superficiality of meaning, whereas it actually provides a far deeper meaning than what we first thought. Now in Islamic lexicography and philology, which is a study of meanings, we will find that there are deep disagreements about meanings of words. Now again, you know, when people say, oh, how did the original recipients understand? Well, we must understand that the most authoritative or authentic Arabic dictionary came in the 13th century, at least 500 years after the time of the Prophet. During such time, now I'm not saying the word meanings have been lost. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, by the time texts have been stabilized, meanings would have acquired more and more connotations according to human experience. This is only natural. And furthermore, the Arab civilization was absorbing the philosophy and ideology and culture of other religions as it was expanding. So it's only natural for languages to expand. You can see it today where, you know, cultures in Asia is absorbing the language of information technology because it is expedient to our lives in order for us to do that. It's expedient in our lives for us to be familiar with IT. So, you know, in other words, we cannot escape these cultural expansions, and neither could the Arabs of the time. It will therefore reflect on their understanding of Quranic words. So this does not mean that we are disempowered in any way. The Quran actually provides us means of understanding. So for for this particular problem, what should we do? Well, I say, number one, we look at ancient dictionaries, not in an authoritative sense, but to find stimulus of meanings. We find meanings which have not made the proliferated meanings, and they could still be used, and we experiment to see if they work. How do we experiment? We test the meanings in accordance with Quranic usage. So once again, the Quran uses words consistently because the Quran says it has no contradictions. So therefore, the consistency of words are important. So when we project a particular meaning, we suggest a particular meaning, that meaning must conform to every single occurrence of the Quran, because the Quran is a closed system of meanings. So the word deen, if we understand it in a certain way, does it fit every single occurrence? Let's see. We should also test the meanings with regards to the context of the Quran. Words don't appear by themselves. Except for the muqata'at, the mystical letters, words don't appear by themselves. They appear in sentences. Do they fit the sentences? Do they fit the immediate passage around the verse? Do they fit the theme of that passage? Do they fit the theme of the chapter or the set of chapters? You see, the Quran is a highly textualized system. So if it doesn't fit, then perhaps your meaning, as proliferant as it is not the correct one. So these are only some of the principles, but let's refer to these, let's use these principles to test the meaning of the word beat. The theme of chapter 4, okay, the first point I'm using, the theme of chapter 4 begins with a call to mankind to augment themselves and establish relationships. And they are to help the people who are solitary, the yatim. Thus, this particular principle in chapter 4, verse 34, to beat the wives, does it fit with this? It does not. Chapter 4, verse 34 is contained within a passage which is addressed to those who have believed. That starts with verse 29. And that is a system of economic cooperation between believers. How did suddenly we come to interpret 434 to mean marital relations? Now this is again very, very dodgy, because it simply does not fit the flow of the context. Now the reason why traditionalists say that, okay, well, it refers to marital relations is because of the two words ar-rijal and an-nisa, which are translated as men and women. Once again, I would contend with this. I would say rijal and nisa do not have to mean men and women in every single occurrence. In fact, I can't even see any occurrence where it does actually mean biological men. Rijal comes from the word rijal, which is used in the Quran to mean foot. So rijal, is someone who has mobility or independence. I say this fits the context better than the biological men who don't necessarily have that kind of authority or that capacity anyway. The word nisa, usually translated to mean women. This is used in the Quran, for example, in chapter 3, verse 61. Nisa is used separate to anfus. So these are people other than yourselves. You see, so other people. It doesn't have to be men or women. It could be any other people who are behind. That's what actually nisa means, those who are lagging behind. And if 434 is actually translated to mean men and women, we have to note that it does not mean husbands or wives. The Quran actually uses the word husband, ba'al, and the word wife, imra, elsewhere. So why did it not unambiguously use the words husband and wife in this ayah? Why did it say men and women? Well, if it says men and women, because and if it says men and women, that means that all men will have authority over all women, regardless of marital relations. That again does not make any kind of sense. Now we go to the word beat or darba. The word is used in the Quran. Allah says, for example, daraballahu mathalan. Allah imparts to you an example. we are to daraba in the earth. Adribu fil ard, chapter 4, verse 94. It's actually in chapter 4. And if the Quran is consistent with the use of words, then daraba cannot mean beat. It could mean to separate, because you impart, yeah, you depart or impart. And if you look at chapter 4, verse 35, the very next verse, it's talking about terms of separation. Where did separation suddenly come from? Obviously, it's talking, it was used it was meant by the word daraba in chapter 4, verse 34. So from there, we can see that actually, it's very clear that it does not mean beat, and it cannot mean beat. Another principle, which probably I'm kind of in overkill mode here, another principle in the Quran is there is no compulsion in religion. So if you are trying to get your wife to submit to you, you cannot compel her by beating. That will go against the Quran as well. La ikraha fid din. So in any aspect of the religion, there cannot be any compulsion. So what are you doing here? You know, trying to say that, yeah, you can actually beat your wife so that she obeys you. It goes against every aspect of the Quranic text in my reading. So that is what radical dissociation does. It challenges these hegemonical meanings because it feels that these meanings were created in an atmosphere of patriarchy and misogyny and was intended to create oppression. Can radical dissociation work for other concepts? Of course it can, of course. It will change the Quran from being a text talking about the three major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, to a universalist text. It will not preach a single religious sect, rather it will preach a universal principle. Let me tell you about the terms Yahud, Nasara, Ahl al-Kitab, Bani Israel. These terms were interpreted to mean religious sects within the Islamic context. I disagree. If you look at the meanings, they refer to behavioral patterns. It is also true with the term kafir, mushrik, usually translated rejectors and associators, etc. This does not mean that people outside Islam, what we understand to be the world of Islam, are automatically kuffar. This is simply untrue. The Quran uses these words in behavioral senses, just like it uses the word Islam as well. I would say Islam is not with the Muslims just now. It's not. The reason is Muslims are not as a whole working for salam or peace. So therefore they cannot be said to be working for Islam as a whole. Individually they might be. As a whole, no. So this is again, I'm running short of time, so I had to rush through these things. But this is again what radical dissociation does. It dissociates us from being in the stream of original meaning. For the very simple reason, the original recipients were human beings. They had human tendencies, and their human tendencies obviously colored their understanding. This does not mean they were automatically wrong, but we do need to look at their findings and their interpretations, and if they do not meet our understanding, our expectations of the text, which is legitimate because they are signs in themselves, then we are duty bound to reform them. Many thanks for having me today, and please feel free to ask me anything you like. Thank you.